Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we're discussing the prophecy of the Omnissiah. Spoiler warning to begin, as the events we're discussing today are from the Horus Heresy novel Mechanicum by author Graham McNeill. As always, I really recommend you read the stories for yourself first without spoilers, as that's the best way to enjoy the lore for yourself. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Now, recently I decided to dive back in and reread the Horus Heresy novel Mechanicum. It's been a few years now since I originally read it, and I've really been enjoying my Mechanicus lore of late, so I thought why not dive back in. And it struck me as I was reading that we've never discussed the Emperor's coming to Mars. However, before we can do that, we really do need to debate and discuss the very Martian prophecy of the Omnissiah, as of course it's this that is integral to the Emperor's union with the Mechanicum, with him being seen as the earthly representation of the Omnissiah. If you've never read Mechanicum, I strongly recommend it. No, it's not your usual Space Marine Legion showcase, but it is absolutely really enjoyable, and in its way a very important installment of the heresy. You get to see why Fabricator General Kelbor Hal betrayed the Emperor, how deep-rooted and seeded the deception was, and the resultant civil war within Mars itself. It's a fantastic look into the politics of the Mechanicum, and a glimpse into its true history. So again, I do really recommend reading it for yourself before you carry on with this upload. But assuming you've done that, as for the Emperor, we of course know he is seen as the Omnissiah, at least by those who remained loyal. And we're lucky enough to have seen the Martian prophecy of the Omnissiah, or the coming of the Omnissiah legend as it's known within Mechanicum 2. So, let's go through the prophecy, breaking down and debating the similarities and differences. And then in the next upload, we can discuss the Emperor's literal arrival to Mars. Behold the coming of the one supreme master of machines. He comes to you from heaven in the drops of rain. Sons of Mars, listen well, for one will come, mighty and strong, holding the scepter of power in his hand. Clothed in light and fire, his mouth shall utter eternal words, while his mind shall be a fountain of knowledge and fact. When the Saviour shall appear, ye shall see him as he is, a man like ourselves, and yet greater by far. This will be the first step in the greatest endeavour of man. It shall begin on the highest peak of the dominion of Ares, when Deimos and Phobos are at apogee and perigee. There thou shalt see the face of the Omnissiah, clad in a body of gold and wreathed in the firmament of the storm. The Lord of all machines will stand in the midst of his people, and shall reign over all the dominion of man. Great shall be the glory of his presence, that the sun shall hide his face in shame. For verily I say unto you, that he shall be the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the master of flesh, and the forger of metal. He shall be a light that shineth in darkness, and a banisher of ignorance. He shall be the object of devotion and love, which kings might envy and emperors sigh for in vain. He shall desire the good of Ares' realm and the happiness of man. All must become one in loyalty, and see all men as brothers. Ruinous wars shall pass away, and peace shall reign among the stars. Strife and bloodshed and discord will cease. All men shall be one as kindred. The divisions of the stars shall all be one. Okay, so obviously there's a few things there that immediately leap out or strike the chord of the Emperor as we know him. Behold the coming of the one supreme master of machines. He comes to you from heaven in the drops of rain. As with all prophecies, this speaks of the coming of something. The key term, one Supreme Master. Supreme Master, the unquestioned ruler. This isn't the coming of something that may alter or affect Mars. This is the prediction of something that'll be beyond question. He comes from heaven in the drops of rain. Considering the universe we're talking about here, you'd say that's a clear reference to off-world. Sons of Mars, listen well, for one will come mighty and strong, holding the scepter of power in his hand. Mighty and strong could be used to describe many beings from across the galaxy, but undoubtedly works for the Emperor. Anytime he is witnessed, the power radiates from him like a ceaseless tide. And in all those first appearances and meetings of him we have witnessed, it is overwhelming for any present. Even the Emperor's own sons struggle to view him until he controls his aura. Holding the scepter of power, I take that as a more symbolic reference to the position of power he wields. The Emperor of Man, the self-appointed ruler of their race, of the galaxy. Clothed in light and fire, his mouth shall utter eternal words, while his mind shall be a fountain of knowledge and fact. Is there a better description of the Emperor out there? If I altered that to, he was clothed in light and fire, and his mouth uttered eternal words, while his mind was a fountain of knowledge and fact, doesn't that sound like someone viewing the master of mankind? As if the very description of him was taken from someone viewing him, or perhaps written by someone who had. When the Saviour shall appear, ye shall see him as he is, a man like ourselves, yet greater by far. Again here, the Emperor is a man, one we have witnessed in his earliest days among the ancient Hittite tribes. He appears as a man, yet is one undoubtedly unimaginably more powerful than any other in existence. This will be the first step in the greatest endeavour of man, the Great Crusade, the Emperor's quest to claim the galaxy for mankind, to unite the very stars. Exactly what the Emperor's first move is, Mars. To unite with, or if he has to, conquer the Red Planet. It shall begin on the highest peak of the Dominion of Ares, when Deimos and Phobos are at apogee and perigee. There thou shalt see the face of the Omnissiah. Here we have the location of the meeting, the highest peak of Mars, the volcano of Olympus Mons. Now this is perhaps the first real piece of luck, as it was indeed the site of the Emperor's landing. However, considering the state of the Red Planet, the vast extinct volcano pinnacle most likely would make the best landing site, the most logical. It wouldn't be the only time the Emperor uses the highest pinnacle to land either, doing exactly the same with Perturabo on Olympia. It most likely makes practical sense for a spacecraft descending from orbit. And well, the Emperor's certainly not naive to the spectacle of landing upon a world's highest summit either, coming as the proclaimed master of mankind. Clad in a body of gold and wreathed in the firmament of the storm. The golden armour, the golden aura, the unparalleled psychic power. The Lord of all machines will stand in the midst of his people, and shall reign over all the dominion of man. Great shall be the glory of his presence, that the sun shall hide his face in shame. For verily I say unto you, that he shall be the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the master of flesh and the forger of metal. Far from a reference to the twin Primarchs here, this speaks of the defining moment of change for Mars. How the arrival of the Omnissiah means the end of the existence they have always known, and the beginning of the new. That it would be the beginning of a new outlook for the Red Planet, which of course the Emperor brings, once more turning their attention to the stars. He shall be the object of devotion and love, which kings might envy, and emperors sigh for in vain. Again, we see how the Emperor is nigh on worshipped long before the Imperial Creed, despite his claim of the Imperial truth. And keenly in the future Treaty of Olympus, he would agree to allow Mars to retain their culture, their worship of the Omnissiah. He shall desire the good of Ares' realm and the happiness of man. All must become one in loyalty and see all men as brothers. The treaty we have spoken of, the union of the Imperium and the Mechanicum. Ruinous wars shall pass away, and peace shall reign among the stars. Strife and bloodshed and discord will cease. All men shall be as one kindred. The divisions of the stars shall be one. Well, wars passing away certainly won't transpire. However, you could certainly see how this intent reflects the Emperor's great plan to unify mankind, rid it of the reliance of the warp, and thus remove the threat of chaos, the ruinous powers. Probably no coincidence the prophecy uses the term ruinous wars. The similarities to the Emperor throughout here are undeniable. And I have to say, the more you go through it, the more you think that this was written for the Emperor. And of course this could be genuine prophecy. However, it does also raise the question that it was written by someone who had met the Emperor previously, or at least knew of him, his intent, and that his inevitable rise or intentions would lead him off Terra. And that were that the case, there was only one viable outcome. And well, that actually could be a possibility, thanks to a teasing revelation. And this comes from a glimpse into Fabricator General Kelbor Howe's thoughts, as he reflects on the history of Mars and its desire for the fabled STCs. In centuries past, the Mechanicum had waged war on the tribes of Terra, dispatching expeditionary forces to humanity's birthworld to plunder forgotten vaults of ancient citadels and wrest the buried secrets of the third planet's ancient technology from those who did not even know it was there, let alone how to use it. The Emperor had built his world on the bones of this long-buried science, and, unwilling to share it, had fought the soldiers of Mars and hurled them back to the Red Planet before travelling to Mars in the guise of the Omnissiah and a peacemaker, albeit a peacemaker who came at the head of an army of conquest. So the actual fact is, the Mechanicum, the people of Mars, had encountered the Emperor before, at least in some guise, as he and his armies had stopped Mars's expeditionary forces pillaging and stealing the technological secrets of Terra. The Emperor had built his world on the bones of this long-buried science, and, unwilling to share it, had fought the soldiers of Mars and hurled them back to the Red Planet. The Mechanicum had absolutely encountered the Emperor before, and he them. Is it possible one of the fleeing tech priests brought the undoubted vision of the Emperor? Or that he had already been converted to the Emperor's cause, returning to Mars to lay the groundwork for the Emperor's arrival? You have to say it is possible. And we do have to remember the Emperor's wars of unification weren't exactly quick, taking considerable time to unify Terra, which could perhaps explain the time span needed for a prophecy to take hold in the populace. However, the likelihood is it is far older, and that actually works too. as there is another clue that could well hint to the Emperor's even earlier involvement with the Mechanicum and Mars, and that actually reveals a path to a far more ancient truth. Upon the union of Imperium and Mechanicum, the Emperor, along with his custodies, led the Fabricator General beneath Mars's surface to the long-lost vault of Moravec. It had been 200 years ago when Kelbor Hau had last seen the vault of Moravec. Together with his golden armoured custodians, the Emperor had led the way into the dusty sepulchres beneath Olympus Mons. The Emperor followed the path through the maze of tunnels towards the lost vault, though how the ruler of Terra had known its location had never been satisfactorily explained, nor had the need that had driven him to find the vaults been expressed. Kelbor Hau had put aside such concerns, eagerly anticipating studying the unknown technologies that lay within the hidden catacombs beneath Olympus Mons. When the vault was located, however, the Emperor simply stood before it, without opening it. He placed his hand on the sealed entrance to the vault, with his eyes closed, and stood as immobile as a statue for 16.15 minutes before turning and leading his warriors back to the surface. Not only does the Emperor not speak of what's inside, he deletes the memory of how to find it from everyone and everything, even telling Kelbor Hau that if he ever opens it up, the alliance with the Imperium will be over. Basically, open the vault, and you're a dead man. So here, it's clear to see the Emperor had indeed been to Mars before, knowing passageways beneath Mars that no other did, and his hand on the door, appearing to sense and listen to something within, all a tantalizing tease of him knowing what was within. The chastisement of Kelbor Hau and erasing of record, a revelation of something dangerous. So what had the Emperor placed within the vault? What was buried within the heart of Mars? When did he do it? And what does it have to do with the prophecy? Well, everything. As it's revealed within the 11th or 12th century of Old Earth, when the Emperor was in the guise of a knight of the Emperor Diocletian, he fought and defeated a terrible dragon. Claiming he was unable to destroy the beast to the people, he instead vowed to take it away to bind it for eternity. Which he did, within the depths of Mars. This dragon is believed to be the long-theorized Void Dragon, the star god Catan, or at the very least a shard of it. And side note here, but we want to talk about the Emperor's power. Whatever it is he may or may not have stolen from the gods upon Melek. Well, here, we know he defeated a Catan, a star god, okay, maybe a shard, in the 11th or 12th century. And not only that, he teleported it to Mars, and hid it within the world. If that is not the example of how insanely powerful the Emperor is, then I don't know what is. So, why did the Emperor imprison it within Mars? For its slumbering dreams to intentionally shape the evolution and destiny of the future Mechanicum, to usher the Red Planet in the centuries ahead to its technological future. Before a human had even set foot on the Red Planet, the Emperor had already guided its future, knowing he would need this future culture to aid his war and crusade across the stars. Now perhaps the Emperor foresaw the Mechanicum and wanted to ensure its fruition, simply guiding the path ahead. Perhaps he devised it entirely as a means to allow his crusade, that without the implementation of the Void Dragon, the Mechanicum would never have transpired. The answer to that we will never know. But what we do know is not only is the Emperor the man within the prophecy, but he's also, in truth, the very reason for its creation. So no wonder the entire thing echoes the Emperor. No wonder every line seems to describe him, predicting his arrival to the Red Planet, the seeming exact plans he had in store for humanity. Because quite simply, he is the Omnissiah. But as always everyone, what do you think? Why do you think the Emperor imprisoned the dragon beneath Mars? Had he foreseen the future Mechanicum and just wanted to ensure it transpired? An example of his guiding of events? Or did he intentionally create the culture he knew he would need? And does this explain why the prophecy so exactly describes the Emperor's future arrival? His plans for humanity and the galaxy? If he did create the Mechanicum and know of the future to come, why then did he come with an army in tow? Would he truly have conquered Mars if he had to? Was the dragon the true Catan of the Void Dragon, or merely a shard? Could a shard shape a world such as Mars so completely? And could the Emperor truly have destroyed it if he wanted to? Was the claim of being unable to destroy it simply a part of his future plan? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.